G'day, mate. Welcome to Friday Facts 349, the 1.0 plan, also known as not quite the final Friday Fun Facts, but it finally does list the final release date for Factorio. And I have a final mojo with me. Hey, mate.
That's a lot of Fs.
It is, but I figured I'd work it in right at the start, get all my Fs out and done with, and now we can talk about 1.0 again. 1.0 was covered, 20 weeks ago? Which technically is 6 months ago, but they've decided to move the release date. Yeah.
They actually brought it forward, not back.
Well, we've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Whenever the Friday Facts comes up, like one of us mentions it, I know it's probably more me than you, that it was very close to Cyberpunk 2077's release date, with a week before Factorio 1.0, which sounds like a really bad idea because that game is...
It's a big deal.
It's got a bit of a hype train going around it. We don't know if the hype train will hold up to, what the game's gonna be, but it has one hell of a hype train, and releasing a week before Factorio would probably wash out Factorio entirely. So they've moved the release date forward 5 weeks, which means, hang on, I've got a command in Discord. It now means it's 2 days, 14 months, 22 hours, 48 minutes, and 12 seconds from now, at least at the date of recording. For Australian time, I do mention that is Australian time, so it's probably about accurate by the time the video gets uploaded because there's a bit of a delay. But yeah, it's been moved forward, and then it's funny enough, they moved it forward, and I think it was probably about 5 or 6 hours after this Friday Facts came out that Satisfactory posted their release date for Steam. And hang on, I've got it saved here somewhere. It is Satisfactory comes out on Steam June 8th. So
Yeah, done. Satisfactory pulled themselves even further forward.
It's out on Epic, obviously, and they've Steam release is a big thing. I actually thought it would be back in March when their exclusivity ran out, and yeah, they've pulled it up to June. So there's a good gap between early June and early August. So or mid,
There's a bit of a
mid-August,
gap,
yeah. So hopefully one doesn't overtake the other. At least that's the hope. But it does mean that some things have been cut from 1.0. So yeah, they did announce back in Friday Facts 321 had plans to do many things in the final release. The main topics were the new campaign, it's gone. Fluid algorithm improvements, that's gone. And the full GUI rewrite. It's not quite gone. The blueprint library has been wiped. It is not getting touched before 1.0 officially. That may change because I was having a conversation with a dev that it might change, but it's not slated to be done for 1.0. If it happens to get done, excellent. If it doesn't, it'll be in 1. Whatever version it happens to be.
Sounds like the kind of thing that would get done if everything else is done before 1.
Look, the GUI rewrite is a major thing, and we're going to get through it as we go through this, but the biggest things you have for a development company leading up to final release or a big release like this is all the marketing, which is all graphics work, which puts the graphics department under a higher load. And of course, a GUI for the blueprint library is also very, very high on the graphics department. It's also high on the coding base because they were talking about a complete redraw of how the blueprint library worked as well. So, it's 50-50, but the graphics department's going to be pretty busy with trying to get stuff up and ready for, marketing materials and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, so they've cancelled a few things. So we do have the campaign, which got cancelled, which I was not too happy about.
It was a bit of a disappointing end, but...
Yeah, and we did have the high-resolution graphics, which were released last week, which includes graphics for everything except beacons. I noticed beacons didn't have a new graphic still. We don't have the pointy spire ones, but also the old ones don't have the pretty updated graphics. They don't have a high-res version, is probably the best way of putting it. We're still running on the original low-res versions, which I remember us looking up. It came out in like version 9 or 12 or something really, really ancient.
We're not running on the original beacon graphics at least, because those are even worse, more low-res. I say even worse, but they're more low-res than the current ones. But the current ones are pretty ancient now.
Yeah, and there are some small little bugs, like you just pointed out to us, to me at least. The refinery, when you set the recipe for a refinery, none of the fluids on the recipe icon line up with the actual refinery at all.
Yeah, when you orientate the refinery in the same orientation.
Yeah, everything is wrong. Everything.
I think I noticed that the day it came out or the day after it came out. I've been meaning to say something about it.
It's
just to
funny,
try people.
Like I've walked past refineries since the update came out, and I haven't even noticed because it's, I don't know. I guess with years of experience, you just like, I don't even recognize it anymore. I know where oil goes, therefore I know where petroleum goes. Therefore, lights in the middle and heavies on the other side. It's sort of baked into my memory now. But yeah, they managed to mess up every single color.
It's almost like someone went out of their way to put every fluid in the wrong position.
Yeah, it takes some skill to get 5 out of 5. But yeah.
Yeah, like 5 out of 5 is a good effort.
Yeah.
On the plus side, I should say, balance off a big negative with a positive, and that the 4 icons that I've wanted forever are in.
Oh, yes. I don't have a screenshot of that ready, but yes, the 4 mystery question marks in the decom planner actually have icons now, which has been, at least you're satisfied. One of your long-time requests has got filled.
Yeah.
Both of mine got passed over and skipped out on. But, you know.
Hooray!
It's
funny.
What it is.
I can't complain about it, but it's funny is that the icon to actually go to the tab is still a question mark.
It is very much so like the doesn't fit in any other category. Icon.
Yeah. But I can't complain about that one because I never said anything about the question mark for the tab itself.
Oh, the question mark for the tab, I think we could let that one go. But yeah, the other 4 have icons, and I do admit I don't have a screenshot. Unfortunately, maybe Mojo can hook one up whilst we're doing this. But yeah, the icons that they've actually chosen are actually really, really good.
Yeah, it's very apparent what they mean.
Yeah. So, yeah, so we've cancelled a lot of things, but they are staying on schedule. One of the things they made with their original estimate is they made concessions for delays. Because things always take longer than expected, as we well know by now. But for the last 6 months, things haven't been taking longer than expected, which they're actually a little bit shocked about. And it probably means the working from home situation is obviously working for Woob as well. So maybe they can have smaller offices in the future? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, they already do a lot of remote work from home already, so it seems natural that they transition to it pretty well.
Yeah, look, I think like they do have the main office, and there is people like us seating who live in the States and fly over to the Czech Republic and stay, you know, for a month or two when big releases are coming out, and those sorts of times when it's helpful to have people like in the office, close communication, that sort of stuff. So they are geared up well for remote work already. But yeah, there are some people that still do come into the office every day. I like I said, chatting a couple of devs, and yeah, you know, they're working from home and making the best of it with kids running around the house. Yeah, I know that feeling. Thankfully, we've just had finally schools go back, so life is somewhat returning to normal here.
Yeah, neighbours were partying last night.
Oh yay, just what you needed.
Yes.
So back to Factorio itself. The general feel in the office of the game is pretty much done, which I'm pretty sure the player base has been saying since like version 15-ish, roughly.
Nominally.
So they want to get it released as soon as possible, so they just chose to move the release date forward to get some closure on 1.0, and the sooner they can start thinking about fun and exciting new things. Factorio 2.0. Factorio in 3D outdo Satisfactory team.
That'd be interesting to see.
Oh, look. Okay. I've had this conversation with a couple of people now because a couple of people said, you know, Woob should work on Factorio in 3D next. I'm like, the biggest catch is Factorio in 3D is a lot of graphics work.
It is.
It's way more graphics work. As soon as you move to 3D, you increase the amount of graphics work like tenfold compared to the coding, but the amount of coding that needs to be increased. So it means they'd have to dramatically change their team. They'd have to bring on a lot more people to do graphics work. and it would vastly change the team dynamic. I don't know whether they'd put out the same sort of quality as we're seeing with Factorio. And obviously,
You know what?
Yep.
The most likely thing that they'd work on, if it's not another Factorio, if it's not Factorio 2.0 or another factory game, would be some kind of RTS.
That's what I've been saying. The whole team really enjoys their RTSs. We've done it when we did the back history and a bit of details about the team when we went and read through all the games and stuff that they've played in the past. And I won't say every single one of them, but a majority of them have a long list of RTSs they have been playing and they have played in the past. So I do think that the team could really excel at an RTS sort of game because they've all played it. They all know what they know what works. They know what doesn't work. The question is whether they can use the Factorio engine because they have spent a lot of time and effort on that engine.
It's the most adaptable.
To make it work for an RTS. I don't know if it can. It does have the same advantage as, I want to say, Satisfactory, Supreme Commander, where it's everything is procedural from start to end.
Procedural and tile based.
Yeah, well, the whole way the game engine works is procedural from start to end. So as long as you know every single input, you can then predict the whole game start to end, which is what Supreme Commander had, which meant you could get replay files that were really, really, really tiny because, well, in Supreme Commander's case, they didn't have the map itself in the save file. It was just like all the player inputs. So you could load up a replay file, which would be a couple of megs, and play out a 2-hour game by just watching the replay inside the game engine. So,
and that's how Factorio's replay saves works.
It is. It also includes all the map data, because I think the map itself... No, because that's seed generator as well, yeah.
It just contains all the map input parameters for the generator.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it does actually have the map state.
Yeah, it does have... So the save file with the replay is the save file and the replay file tagged onto it. And unfortunately, the replay doesn't always work because if you change all the mods or update Factorio, the replay file dies. Pet peeve. Because I really liked going back to Supreme Commander, watching replay files and watching really good matches for a 3 meg download. I can watch a full replay at like 10 times speed. But yeah, Factorio moving up the release date, and we need to talk about this. So, due to the coincidence of cancelling several major features, we can afford to bring the release date forward. To be clear, we didn't cancel or postpone any features due to the Cyberpunk release date. Thoughts, Mojo?
I mean, well, I've been trying to think of what else they cancelled that or what was due other than that, and I'm pretty sure there's something.
So they say, so we had the fluids. Okay, fluids got cancelled because some person got so far with it, they worked out that they could optimize the way fluids work, but it would cost more CPU performance. So it was sort of moving sideways, not necessarily moving forward. Yeah, it made more sense from a player point of view because, like, I've got situations in my current base where I've had to physically put in pumps just to make sure fluid flows to the right, not to left and to up. Just because that's how fluids work. They like going up or left or right or whatever first, and I need them to flow in all 4 directions in some sort of equilibrium. So it made fluids flow easier as far as the player's concerned. They made more sense, but unfortunately they cost more CPU cycles. On top of that, they had the Blueprint Library, which has been postponed / cancelled.
Blueprint Library is really weird at the minute, and it's got a lot of problems.
It does have a lot of problems. They have sort of covered. I can't remember if it was in a previous Friday Facts or whether it was a conversation I had with one of the devs. But the Blueprint Library, they said that, in all honesty, had the insight that they had have now, they wouldn't have ever added the blueprint library in the first place. It's just such a nightmare.
Yeah, it's been pretty much since it's added. It's been an ongoing issue.
It has. Look, it's a great feature, but it was one of those things that really, from stage one, should have had the thought that's been applied to it now, implemented back then, and written up in a different way that it is now, or just not had the feature at all. We did have blueprints prior to the blueprint library. With mods, so we had them prior to the game actually existing, blueprints being in the game as mods. We also had blueprints that you could use as like a copy paste tool, sort of, and even import blueprints that you'd saved elsewhere. So
good old blueprint string.
Yeah, look, it has its pros and its cons. The other thing we have is bacons haven't been updated yet.
Yeah, I haven't got the graphics.
I
was going to say also, I went to go delete a blueprint from the game library, and I couldn't. It's just physically not possible.
Oh no, you can't. No, if you put a, can you? I'm pretty sure. I know I've done it in multiplayer. I think
I've done it. Like I seem to remember that they used to be able to, but I couldn't find the way to delete it anymore.
Okay. Maybe that disappeared with the being able to open the blueprint library and get a new
import string.
Blueprint book and import string from the blueprint library interface. Maybe the same one interfered with the other. I don't know. The campaign obviously got removed. Now, so we do have campaign got removed because they had an idea. They ran with an idea. They weren't happy with the idea. They changed the idea. They ran with a new idea. They had limitations where it came to an ever-expanding map that they didn't really like, and they saw problems with people getting stuck, which I sort of understand. I sort of can appreciate that, you might mine out all the iron fighting off the biters and not being able to progress to the next stage. These sorts of problems. So I do understand that one a little bit. I'm still disappointed, just to put it out there. Yeah, so there are some things that have been cancelled that I understand. Yeah, I don't think it's directly due to Cyberpunk, but I'm thinking somebody had it in the back of their mind that, like, okay, we got two choices. We either push ahead and try and get these things fitted in and maybe miss the release date, and push things back, which I know they're really trying to avoid. But it does push them away from Cyberpunk, which is a great thing. Or we just cancel a couple of things that are proving to be difficult for right now and put them on the back burner as a maybe 1.1 feature, and we move the release date forward. And I have a feeling it went with a, let's move the release date forward, let's put things on the back burner, we'll add them to a list of 1.1 editions, and yeah.
I think they also don't want a repeat of every major version change where it ends up being delayed by 6.
Well, look, honestly, as we can all agree, the game is ready for release now. Like, even with fluids not being optimized, really, let's be honest, you just learn that the fluids are a little bit janky, which really only affects players that really push things to the limit. Like, if you are trying to get a full throughput of petroleum through the pipe per second, that's when you encounter these sorts of problems. If you have backed up fluids because you're producing too much petroleum, never an issue. The blueprint library, it'd be nice to have, but it doesn't kill the game. It's not unfunctional what we have currently. It's perfectly fine. New player experience / demo, they're happy with it, and really it's the devs that have to be happy with their demo that they're releasing as part of their game. As we've covered, demos are really not a feature that people have anymore.
And this is not part of the whole. The whole idea of a demo isn't really much of a thing anymore.
No, it's really not. I should mention, and just mainly in case one of the devs actually watched this video, that Woob do say they have a 30-day return policy, but Steam only has a 2-week return policy. I'd like to see if they could word into their description somewhere that if it was bought directly from Woob, that there'd be a 30-day return policy. Because I know myself personally, if I could buy a game and forget Steam's 2 hours, 14 days, whatever crap it happens to be, which is all enforced because of Australian law, and funnily enough, because we're both Australian, we can actually argue with Steam and say, I don't care whether it says 2 hours, you've got to be able to return the game within 14 days. Bad luck, doesn't matter how many hours I've played in it, because of Australian consumer law. But
fortunately for us as well, the courts have already told them that they have to.
Yeah, they have to. And like, Steam just looks at it, confirms they're in Australia, and goes bad luck and refunds it, right? They will put a little flag against your account. You will be in trouble if you do it too many times, but that's besides the point. If I could buy a game and know I had 30 days to return it if I didn't like it, I'd just buy the game outright. I wouldn't bother with demos or anything else. I'd be just like, yeah, I got 30 days. Like, that's plenty of time to decide whether I like a game or not. And I just grab it. And I got to say, most people from what I've seen that grab Factorio, that it falls one or two camps. They either love the game and just lose their first 3 weeks of their life to Factorio, like most of us did, or they absolutely hate the game and they're over it in an hour or two.
Or in other words, they're just deviants, and it's like the 1% of people that are just deviants and just weird and have strange taste.
Yeah. So I think that would help them get more sales as well. On top of that, I have noticed that they're now back to number 2 on the top most rated games on Steam. Factorio
got back.
Yeah, it did drop to number 3, I think, behind Witcher, but they're back to number 2. So, again, something for the marketing team to work in. But yeah, they have 10 weeks to finish the game, update the trailer, and prepare the marketing materials. And we do have this lovely picture, which is from Friday Facts. What version? I pressed the button. Friday Facts 327. So that was from last one of last year. Yeah. Last Friday Facts of 2019, we had this lovely poster that they did drop in, which is, again, one of the great images put together by... Oh, God, I can't remember who does it. Nope.
One of them.
I want to say it's Albert. I think so. It's their main graphics guy, and I can't remember his name right now.
Clev or Albert?
I can't remember. Maybe it's V himself. I don't know. What version is it? So I've what are we up to? We're up to 327. I'll go look it up on the other screen whilst we keep going. So we do have localization plan, and it's Albert.
Albert, that's the one.
There we go. I was right. So, localization plan and local freeze. So, one of the final parts of the game comes with finalizing the community translations for the game. We use Crowdin as source for all the translations. Crowdin has been working very well, has been deeply integrated into their workflow, which they covered back in Friday Facts 48. A long time ago.
It's a blast from the past. That's got to be like 2014.
2014, yeah, back in August 2014. So they've been paying Crowdin the service €30 per month, which just basically lets people jump in there and add translations for English to whatever language it happens to be. And I did look up the Factorio translations, and I've seen that some of it's fairly complete. Some of it's really not complete. I did notice that the Czech language itself is only 95% complete. For the translations.
That surprised me. I'm surprised not 100%.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that one's not 100%. But yeah, it does range. We've got some down at 5 and 6%. We've got other ones at 100% completion. So, there is some translations to go. So what they're actually doing is... So they want to finish off the translations, obviously, before they finish 1.0. So what they're doing is they're frozen the local languages. So it means no more additions or changes, as much as reasonable. This will be proofreading the English source text, and after that, proofreading all the target languages. They've hired an outside company, Altagram. And their plan is, once we get the green light, the community has completed their contributions and translations in Crowdin, we'll start proofreading the English source text and offer any grammar or stylistic improvements as needed. Once English is polished, we'll get started on proofreading the secondary language. The linguists, who are all gamers themselves, are experts in game localization, which will work their magic to ensure the target language is true to the source text as possible, and ensuring all players of Factorio, regardless of any language they play in, will have the same experience. Some things that linguists will check when proofreading the target languages are ensuring the text itself, especially all in-game items, is consistent throughout. Spelling, grammar is corrected. The translations carry the same meaning and emotion as intended. As we offer our suggestions, this text will be sent back to the community for their final approval before implementation in the game. So, If you are multilingual, I do suggest just spend a little bit of time on the Crowd Insight, look at what translations are missing, help where possible, and then from the sounds of it, the community gets to actually double check what this company is charging Woob for and give their final tick of approval, which is probably not a bad idea because you're actually seeing it in-game where they're probably reading scripts on a screen and providing translation as required. So, yeah.
Well, given that they are gamers, maybe they are checking it in-game.
Maybe they are. Maybe Woob's providing them free keys to their lead linguists to double check in-game. I don't know. I don't know the details. But yeah, look, it's good to see that Factorio is releasing in multiple languages. I do know a large, I say this with 100% bias, I admit that, but I do seem to think that a large percentage of gamers do tend to speak some or read some sort of English or speak some sort of English, because yes, I can swing by Twitch and I can find lots of people streaming in all sorts of languages, but there is a good chance if you show up in their chat and you speak English, there is a chance they'll reply to you in English because they do understand English somewhat. Same applies to games. I have seen people that, are speaking German non-stop and their game is installed and running in English, even though there are German options available. So yeah, it's good that they are launching in multiple languages. It does give advantages to those that only speak, their native tongue. But yes, there are a lot of players that could probably scrape by with just using English. I'm
trying to think of the stats. It's something like 80 to 90% of the world doesn't speak English. So there is a justification for it.
There is a massive amount of people that don't speak English. I've just found it seems within the game playing genre, it's like people tend to know some amount of English and they tend to run on Windows rather than Linux because games come out on Windows and not always have Linux support, that sort of stuff.
Some people don't want to willingly beat their head against the.
Some people don't want to try and force the game to run in Linux or run in Mac or whatever it happens to be. Some games, like I do know there's been a lot of complaints inside my Discord that Satisfactory doesn't run on Linux, and the team at Satisfactory have said, we may add Linux support in the future, but currently it doesn't run. But we do know people have had it running, and there is a forum post here where you can attempt to go through smashing your head through the same process to get it to work. So there are options, but yeah, most people, once you go to that subgroup of gamer people, I've found that the percent that speak English goes way up, and the percent that run Windows goes through the roof. But yeah, so then we move on to Prototype Explorer GUI and Prototypes GUI. So this is something I actually saw Seeding stream him working on this.
Yeah, I heard about this. He was working on it in the last week or so.
A week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It's again something that most players won't see, but I do know from a modder and again from them bug solving. It's one of those massive things that once it's been made, they'll probably never realize how the hell they live without it. So, Factorio has a lot of debug features and tools built in over the years. Some of them are used extensively, show FPS and UPS, which we both run with basically 100% of the time, so we can see when our UPS is starting to drop, and obviously we need to do something about optimizing the mess that we've made.
Others pretty much need, though, that unless you're some kind of savage.
Look, I can tell when the game's dipping under 50. Okay, I've played enough hours. I can tell when it's dipping under 50.
Actually, the true savage is the people who don't run with alt view on.
Oh, don't get me started.
Trying to.
The funny thing is, I can't really tell if until the game's running over 80 UPS without that GUI on. So I can tell under 50, above 80 is when I start to realize it's running too fast. So yeah, one of the things we added with everyone that was added with a purpose ended up providing far more utility than its original purpose. With that in mind, because they also end up being a lot of fun to me, being our seeding, he was working on an issue and found that the GUI style inspection logic tooltip, and thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have something like this for all the prototypes in the game? Is that even something I could realistically do? How would it look and how would it handle all the nesting that happens? But it sounded like fun. Seeding has a really warped sense of humor when it comes to fun.
It's unique. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it's very good for the line of work he happens to be in. So he decided that he wanted the utility to have a few things. Figure out if a mod had tweaked or changed something, or if it was supposed to and didn't, comment in modding bug reports and during mod development. Provide a place to extract information the game doesn't show anywhere else, not everything exposed through the mod API, as unrealistic to expect anyone to remember the entire API, except us sitting himself. Link from the game concepts to the wiki explaining more about them, and that's the big one. Being able to go from anywhere inside the game, click a link and get the wiki reference, which normally has way more information, is a big thing to any modder who's trying to get something done. Because I know a lot of the modders that I speak to, they use the wiki, both the front end that a lot of people use and the back end, which explains more of how the mod API works on the wiki, a lot. So list of benefits seem to be worth at least tinkering with the idea, and we actually have I think it's an early prototype up on the screen. So the technical design. First part I needed to figure out was how I was going to get everything shunted into the GUI. Factorio is written in C++, and C++ does not have reflection. There's no easy way to say for all the variables this thing has, do this. Really, the only way we get everything covered is to send each thing to the GUI. It's not pretty, but we don't want to make changes to the prototype frequently. We don't make changes to the prototype frequently at this stage of development. Additionally, if something is wrong, it doesn't cause any crashing errors. There's an easy fix. It's an easy fix that anyone can do. A lot of boring typing later, and that was covered. So he's got a very early thing that just basically lets you open a GUI up for like a chest and find out all the things that a wooden chest can do, and all the things that can interact with a wooden chest, and so on and so forth. So for each thing to show the name, show the value, show the type. Sounds simple, but never is, always is not. The type can be incredibly verbose, and we've got a bunch of code here, which means nothing to me. The values can be huge, so there are certain items that have, I'm trying to think, some of the infinity items can have a very, very large value attached to them. The value can be array of something, so empty should be shown for empty arrays. Arrays of things with one value should really just show the one value. Optional things should show empty when not set. Some things would link to another thing, so linking needs to be created. All this has to work in any nesting level. So complicated. And then finally, he added the wiki linking. So near the early stage of development, so the easiest way to convey anything to anyone using this. This is what some type is, and how it's supposed to use it, is to show the wiki page about it. The wiki is very detailed information about a lot of what was going on, and showing it seemed to be only logical to utilize it, but I didn't want to hard code links because that never ends well. So
yeah, that's problematic.
Yeah, hard coding anything, and I've even found this out in just hard coding simple HTML web pages, is you change one thing and then you find out you're going to change it in 30 other places. So yeah,
just like the bad old days.
The bad old days when when we did code things hard coding, because that was the only way, and you did have to change things 30 odd times. So his idea, he was going to have a very, very simple linking into the wiki, and Bilka got the back end of the wiki to basically do that step for him. So if it went, where are we? Here we go. We've got, what is this? This is a storage tank. So this is your standard good old, 24,000 litre petroleum tank. And
I think everyone is 25, but yeah.
Yeah, 25. Sorry. I set mine to 24. That way they never fill up. But yeah, we have a fluid box prototype, and if we hover over the wiki link, it links you straight to fluid boxes, which is really, really helpful, because that really explains how fluids work in game. But on top of that, us sitting didn't want to basically waste your internet and waste the game state trying to download the whole wiki every single time you open Factorio. So he didn't want to download the wiki page every time the GUI opened. What a waste. Didn't want to download the wiki page every single time the game launched. Even bigger waste. But page still needed page still needed to be re-downloaded when it changed. He didn't want the game to pause when the download ran, and he needed...
It's a classic seeding feature. Doesn't want the game to be stalled for any reason.
No. Split it off to another thread, because Factorio is multi-threaded to a certain extent, but yes, it's multi-threaded, so he split it off to another thread. And it also needed to be fault-tolerant, because it's the internet, and internet happens. So, a simple link to the wiki turned into, it remembers last time it downloaded the wiki page and what the revision ID is. That's very important when wikis. If you scroll down at any wiki page, it actually tells you the last update and what the revision ID is of that page. If you go in and edit something or change something, it gets a new revision ID. Really, really handy for wikis. Really, really handy for when people go in and trash them and then you can roll them back. All those sorts of fun things. So it only tries to download... So it remembers what the revision ID is. It only tries to download download if the revision ID... only tries to download the revision ID the first time one of the GUIs is open. If the revision ID has changed, it tries to download the latest wiki page. If the download succeeds, it saves it for next time and populates the GUI links. If any of this logic fails, it logs it and it silently continues to run. It is the internet after all, and random failure is to be expected. It is definitely when it comes to the internet, and it all happens in the background thread, so the game doesn't pause whilst the logic works. Again, seeding magic at work.
Yep, multi-threading.
And again, like, this is the GUI here, and for people that aren't doing any sort of modding, this is all Japanese to you. But yes, it basically lists everything about a storage tank and how it works. So we can see it has, random corpse variation, false. That means when a tank dies, it only has one type of remnants. Integration patch from render lab. No idea. Next one is
it goes further and further downhill from there.
Yeah, it goes further downhill. It does say it's a fluid box. It gives that's where it is on the screen. It does say what sprite it is, so you can actually physically look up what sprite a storage tank is and where it's stored in the game. Along with the fluid background, the flow sprites, all that sort of stuff. All these details that are very, very hard to look up manually. It can be done by searching through the files and searching through your code and your modding APIs and all that sort of stuff. But having this in game is a massive, massive saver. And it's like, I didn't realize that there were 4 different sections. Circuit connector sprites, size 4. No, that must be how big the sprite is when it connects onto the storage tank itself.
There's a ton of orientations for the circuit wire connector, and then you got to know where it is and where the wire needs to join the connect. Yeah, there's a lot of information there. Yeah, it's in the circuit network alone.
All right. So with storage tanks are 2-directional only, so fluid can flow in and out of them. Unlike, what am I thinking of? Boilers.
Boilers, yeah.
Pumps are another one. Boilers another one. The steam only flows out one of the connections. The other connection is bidirectional, water in, water out. But
boilers are kind of weird because water can go in both directions, but steam only goes in one direction.
Yeah, steam comes out and water can go in or out the other 2 pipes. So yeah, there's a lot of details, and obviously being able to see this in game, whilst after the game state has changed everything, any mods have changed anything, any other mods have maybe changed something as well that they shouldn't have, is a massive difference. It also means debugging is just that much easier. So yeah, another big change, again, mainly going to apply to modders. Not going to really see it in game. I do know there's some sort of keyboard combination that you have to press to get this to pop up. I can't remember what it is. Setting did say it during his stream. And then we have our final one. We have native Lua serialization, which will break more mods.
This is the one that everyone's been going on about lately.
Technically, it's the modder's fault for using stuff that's not supported that Woob was also using, even though they didn't officially support it. So
for doing bad things.
Just saying. So, a boss kid was working on this last week. It was requested by us, setting a look how we could implement a stateful Lua table into Since we often iterate over Lua tables from C++ side, and this operation is slow. This forced me to learn some of the intervals of Lua and how it stores up tables. Up this point, when a map was saved and the Lua state had to be serialized, we used serpent.dump from the serpent library to convert the variable global into a string on Lua side and then take it out and store it within the save. So basically, a lot of the crap that mods could do or are doing had to be converted into this magic file, which also is a big causer of desyncs. I do want to say, I know Clonan's mining drones had big problems with the way this dumped data, and it caused desyncs for quite some time until he got around to fixing it for, I think, the 5th time it finally worked. Since going through the Lua tables from C++ happened to be quite easy, he decided to implement for an experiment a native Lua serializer. This allowed me to completely skip using serpent.dump and instead save them directly. My primary goal was to reduce loading time, since in the old format that saved data, the string that Lua had to be phrased and executed. As we noticed later, not by him, the save speed improves a lot due to the fact no Lua operations were executed during save and just pure traversed over the data to save in a linear time. And I do love this, and it's something I have been noticing. Like I did a series back in version 15, saving to a mechanical drive, so that's my first thing, and a save file of around about 250 megabytes. And it took a long time to make that save file. So long,
Even pretty small files back in version 12 used to take a very long time to save.
Well, in 15, again, 100% mechanical. It's all as slow as possible. It took a long time to save things, and I turned off autosaves. I've actually found in my current series, and I've looked up because I was expecting the save files to be massive, they're only about 50 meg.
Yeah, they're not that big. 50 meg files do take a while to save and load, though.
They take a very, very, very long time. And I actually looked up an old video comparing my old save times to now. And it's very close for 1/5 the amount of data. And I just put it down to, maybe they'd worked out better compression or something. And I have a feeling it's got something to do with this, because this save has a lot of mods. The previous one had no mods. But yeah, we have gone from a saving time of 285 seconds, which is what, 4 minutes?
Yeah, that's 4 minutes.
Yeah, down to 2 seconds. And a loading time of 50 seconds to just 22 seconds. So loading time halved, that's great. But the saving time, that is a massive difference.
Actually, that's almost 5 minutes.
It is.
So I think 300 is 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's 15 seconds short. So yeah, 4.5, 5 minutes down to 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, so I have no idea how BossKit missed that part. Maybe he was just doing lots of loads and no saves. Because that's one of those things that at 5 minutes you're ready to get up and walk away from the computer. Whereas, yeah, loading, okay, halving the time, you could probably miss that. But yeah, also includes some other optimizations implemented by RSeeding. Of course it does. Choosing serializer, however, has its costs. Serpent Dump was doing serialization of Lua functions stored in globals. These were officially unsupported by us, but some mods were using them since they seem to work. With the new serializer, I've decided not to implement it at all due to its complexity and inherent limitations. Closures were broken anyway. This broke some mods, even some base game scenarios. Bad word. But it's quite easy to fix. As additional consideration, we had if it should fail to save when Lua functions are in the global save state, it should silently delete them, as happens with meta tables. The first approach was considered to be best to quickly catch all non-conforming mods, but later they decided that deleting them on save and providing some info in the log file was better because a migration was almost impossible during the base game migration for 18.28 that requests to reload all scripts that has a side effect, saves in Lua state, would abort the saving immediately due to Lua functions still in global. So it looks like if you update, and I'm thankfully I think I'm on the version prior to this currently. It looks like if you update, there is a good chance your mods might suddenly stop working. So you've been warned.
I think I'm already on it and didn't run into any problems. Although I don't run too many crazy mods.
It seems 50-50 between mods. There are some mods that it works fine, and I do know a lot of the modders that are in my Discord haven't had any problems. None of their mods have crashed. Actually, no. I think there was one that was tied to Clonan's mining drones mod that did just die outright in 1828. But apart from that, everybody else seems to be fine because, like I said, it's officially unsupported to start with. And according to a couple of modders, it was just bad form to start with. You really should.
Yeah, anyone who's a half decent coder wouldn't have done it anyway.
Yeah. So, I do have provided, thankfully by my Discord, Friday Facts 277, which does provide us a pretty little table of what was going to be in Factorio 1.0 as part of the GUI update. And going through the list, so this is 277, so this is all the way back at the start of 2019. They hadn't finished the technology GUI, which they have done now. The technology
that's done.
Tooltip. I'm assuming that's done. The technology.
I think that's in. If it is what I think it is.
Yeah, the recipe item entity tooltip. That's been done because now you can have a setting where it hovers over your mouse rather than on the right hand side. The action bar and the shortcut bar have both been done. The train GUI has been done.
That's done.
Manage install mods has been done. Main screen chat has not been done. That's something that hasn't been done at all. So we've got our first boo-boo. We've missed one. Recipe Explorer is not done either.
Oh, yes.
So that would be...
Something about that one.
Yeah, that'd be like... what's the one everybody uses? Helmod. What's the other one?
Helmod, Factory Planner, FNEI.
Yeah. The character screen has been done. The menu structure has been done. New game has been done. Help overlay. I have no idea. I have no idea what help overlay is.
I'm not sure what that was intended to be.
We have a chat icon selector. That's definitely not done. And we have a blueprint library which has been scrapped. Yeah.
Nobody wants to do the blueprint library.
No, this got a pretty little list of tick boxes from a general UI, a draft UI, a UI review, a UI markup, a UI review, implementation draft, implementation review, and then a final review. And when it comes to the blueprint library, it's all crosses. Nobody's done anything. Nobody just not touching a bar of that. So yeah,
they open the relevant section and then immediately close it again. 5 seconds.
Yeah, so there are some things definitely missing. Now, going through this list really, really quickly, Recipe Explorer probably requires some graphical work, so it probably won't get done. Chat icon selector, no idea if that's just a button we can click on to open and close chat. If it's down the shortcut bar, it could probably get implemented because it's not a lot of graphical work, it's mainly coding work. Same goes for main screen chat. So you might have a couple of these make it in before 1.0. But yeah,
depends on how complicated they are.
It does, and
the scope is.
It depends on. Of course, they did say with the localization that they don't want to start changing the language in the game at all, really, at this stage. So they're probably hesitant to add things just at the moment as well. Anything that requires text. Or text that they can't copy and paste from elsewhere, and therefore, it has another reference. So therefore, when the first one gets updated, the second one will get updated, that sort of stuff. So yeah, and like I said, with 1.0 coming out, there's a brand new trailer that needs to be shot, recorded, edited, music overlaid. They did mention that they still have to update the soundtrack, so that's still got to be done. Which is not the graphical team, but it's something that has to be done before 1.0. On top of that, if you're unfamiliar at all with when new games come out and you start seeing YouTube videos for them, normally the first 4 or 5 thumbnails for most channels are very, very similar. They're actually provided by a press kit. So I know Woob has a press kit. You can go onto their website, you can download a press kit, which is a bunch of high res, basically thumbnails. the Factorio logo. What else? Woob. Actually, Woob's logo's not in there. I think there's a link to all the trailers. There's a certain amount of stuff for either written press, YouTubers, Twitch, streamers, all that sort of stuff that's bundled into a zip file. That's got to be updated, which requires somebody to go through and decide what they want in it, make the actual screenshot, whatever it happens to be, make some sort of cover art. And again, you'll see a lot of YouTube thumbnails for certain games all look very similar.
Very similar. And it's because they all come from the same press kit.
They come from the exact same press kit. Yep. So all that's got to be done. At the same time, they're probably going to, as it gets closer, start reaching out to certain influencers and press companies, that sort of stuff, saying, we'd like you to look at Factorio for us and that sort of stuff. So there is a lot of work that comes in the final weeks leading up to a big release like this. And yeah, a lot of it is via the graphics department. Speaking of the graphics department, like the Steam achievements, I did notice that they didn't get a review at all last week when we did the GUI changes. And I have confirmed they're not getting a refresh at this stage. It's on the list, but it's not going to happen, not before 1.0. So
it's a low priority task. It doesn't really need to be done.
It doesn't really need to be done. It'd be nice if it was, because they're a little bit out of fashion. But yeah, it's whether it gets done before 1.0, who knows, right? It's really what it falls down to. So they have a lot of work still to do, but a lot of it has to do with a release date rather than the game itself. So yeah, they're still quite busy. And what did we say? It's how many weeks away? 10?
Yes, weeks away.
2 months, 14 days. Yep, 10 weeks. 10 weeks. It is 10 weeks away. That's going to be a little bit tight, I have a feeling. Yeah, maybe pushing it back would have been a better idea. We'll see how it all falls out in the next 10 weeks or so. We've got 10 more Friday Facts to read about the adventures of the Woob team and what can go wrong next. Anyway, with all that said, I think we're done with this week's Friday Facts. Yes?
Yeah, I think we're done.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next week for Friday Facts 350. Big numbers, big numbers. All right, see you then. Bye.
Bye-bye.